3,000 kilometres from Perth in the middle of the southern Indian Ocean, there's a state-of-the-art ship searching for MH370.
More than a decade after Malaysia Airlines Flight 37, disappeared without a trace. The question everyone has asked remains, where is the plane? Despite billions spent on searches, only scattered debris washed ashore, never the main wreckage. But what if the key to solving this cold case was hiding in signals no one thought to analyze? One retired engineer claims to have uncovered MH370's final resting place using a network of faint radio signals monitored by hobbyists worldwide. Could this be the breakthrough that finally puts this haunting mystery to rest? The evidence is unlike anything experts have seen before. The vanishing of MH370. On the night of March 8, 2014, Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 took off from Kuala Lumpur International Airport, carrying 239 souls bound for Beijing. For almost an hour, the flight seemed routine. The plane climbed smoothly, and communications with air traffic control went without incident. Then, at 1:21 a.m., something inexplicable happened. The aircraft's transponder went silent. What this meant was that MH370 disappeared from civilian radar screens, effectively vanishing from the eyes of the world. But this disappearance wasn't quite as simple as blinking out of existence. Malaysian military radar continued to detect an unidentified blip moving off the plane's original path. Rather than heading northeast towards Beijing, the aircraft made a sharp, deliberate left turn, flying back over the Malay Peninsula before veering toward the Andaman Sea. It kept moving for almost another hour before completely vanishing from military radar at about 2:22 a.m. northwest of Penang Island. This was a plane that had defied all expectations of conventional flight. Even more baffling was the aircraft's satellite system. Though the plane was no longer responding on traditional air traffic control frequencies, it maintained sporadic connections to an Inmarsat satellite orbiting above the Indian Ocean. These handshakes were not designed to track aircraft but acted as maintenance pings, quiet signals confirming that the plane was still powered on, somewhere far from any radar's reach. Over 6 hours, 7 such pings were recorded, giving only a vague idea of the plane's possible trajectory, but no exact position. Investigators used this limited data to generate massive arcs stretching across the southern hemisphere. MH370's path was narrowed down to 2 general directions, one northward across Asia and the other plunging deep into the Indian Ocean. The northern route was discarded quickly. Civilian and military radars in many countries would have certainly detected a large passenger jet there. Attention then focused entirely south, at an enormous, mostly unexplored expanse of ocean roughly the size of Pennsylvania. Over the years, international teams launched one of history's largest and costliest search operations, scouring approximately 120,000 square kilometers of seafloor. Despite deploying ships, planes, and deep-sea drones equipped with sonar, the ocean floor yielded no definitive signs of MH370. Fragments of debris washed ashore years later in far-flung places like Reunion Island, Madagascar, and Mozambique. But none offered conclusive insight into the exact crash site. The great ocean had kept its secret. This mystery of loss without trace ignited a storm of speculation ranging from sabotage and hijacking to mechanical failure. Yet, the deeper experts dug, the more the official story seemed incomplete. The satellite pings had framed the search, but if they were entirely accurate, why hadn't the wreckage been found in such an extensively searched zone? This question haunted families and investigators alike, raising the possibility that perhaps the data was misunderstood or incomplete. Amid growing frustration, scrutiny grew over the approach taken to locate MH370. How solid were the assumptions about its flight path? Could something else have interrupted traditional tracking methods, or misled investigators? The complexity of the night's events was just beginning to unfold, revealing layers of uncertainty that official explanations had failed to fully address. Yet, while many had accepted the broad strokes of the plane's final hours, a few were willing to question whether critical clues had been overlooked. One such individual was a retired British aerospace engineer who would soon challenge everything we thought we knew about MH370's last journey. As the search zone remained a vast, silent expanse, a fresh perspective began to emerge, one that would delve beneath the assumptions and into signals no one else had dared to analyze. The official theory's flaws.
One of the greatest, a stunning oversight by Malaysian authorities that meant the massive initial search was focused in the wrong place.
The dominant story that emerged immediately after MH370 disappeared created an eerie depiction of events. The report claimed that Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah, who had extensive flying experience, deliberately took control of the aircraft. The report stated that Zahari turned off all communication equipment before he executed a sudden maneuver which brought the plane back over Malaysia, after which he lost cabin pressure to render all passengers brain dead. The aircraft flew unpiloted across the southern Indian Ocean until it reached its fuel limit and crashed silently into the ocean. The plot of this narrative provided a complete solution to its mystery through a dark yet simple explanation. People found the ghost flight theory to be understandable because it showed how a person took his own life after he turned his death into a malicious scheme. The experts began their analysis and found out that the data no longer supported the neat solution which they had established before. The satellite information showed burst frequency offset values which demonstrated uncontrolled behavior. The data showed that the plane experienced a sudden drop that led to steep altitude loss, which occurred during the flight's final moments. The situation showed more resemblance to an urgent, dangerous descent than to a peaceful procedure for water. The physical evidence brought forward more uncertainty about the situation. The first confirmed piece of wreckage was a flaperon found on Reunion Island over a year after disappearance. Ditching that, an airplane would perform through controlled conditions results in different aircraft damage patterns than the actual plane condition of that wreckage. The experts observed that the flaperon trailing edge showed signs of violent flutter damage because the control surface moved uncontrolled through fast-moving air. The airplane maintained its cruising configuration because the wing flaps remained in a retracted position. More debris recovered from African coastlines showed the same pattern as previous findings. The wing flaps section discovered in Tanzania showed fractures that developed from overload, which indicates presence of sudden high-energy impact. The plane should show evidence of extended flaps and floating fuselage parts, and less damaged wreckage if the soft water landing theory were true. The damage showed evidence of an extremely destructive event. The official search operation depended on its primary evidentiary foundation because its initial assessment process used unverified assumptions. The investigators used satellite arcs to create accurate flight routes, which they combined with actual fuel burn rates and their expected operational patterns to establish that the plane used autopilot for straight flight until it ran out of fuel. The seventh arc, which the last satellite ping determined, acted as the main element which all search efforts depended upon. The use of assumptions presents dangerous outcomes for decision-making processes. When $200 million and countless hours are invested following a potentially flawed theory, the consequences are profound. After all the underwater area analysis that lasted many years, the absence of any wreckage proved that the plane must exist in a different location than the search area which people assumed to be its landing site. The researchers developed confirmation bias when they showed preference for one theory, despite being presented with opposing proof. The investigation required a new approach, which needed to detect all errors and analyze new data sources. The official narrative of events limited possibilities because it established boundaries which new possibilities could only exist outside them. The stage was set for a man who thought beyond traditional aviation, tracking methods and trusted signals few others even knew existed. Richard Godfrey's unconventional approach. Richard Godfrey, a retired British aerospace engineer, was no stranger to complex technical puzzles, but MH370 became his most personal challenge. About 2 years after the plane disappeared, while most had given up hope or moved on to theories, Godfrey was quietly working in his study, convinced there had to be another way to track the lost jet. What caught his attention was a network of signals few outside the amateur radio community had considered important. This system, called Weak Signal Propagation Reporter, or WSPR, was designed for radio hobbyists, allowing them to send ultra-weak signals to one another across vast distances by bouncing them off the ionosphere. The transmitted power was often less than 1 watt, similar to a dim nightlight. Yet these signals could cross oceans. Godfrey realized that if MH370 had flown through this invisible web of radio transmissions, it should have left behind slight disturbances in the signals between receiving stations. Though it sounded almost too good to be true, the theory was grounded in physics. Large objects like airplanes can interfere with weak radio waves, causing tiny dips or shifts in frequency, subtle enough to require meticulous analysis, but strong enough to appear in WSPR's publicly logged data archives. These databases contained billions of individual signal reports going back years, creating a massive treasure trove for investigation. Godfrey's project quickly became an obsession. Over 3 years, he sifted through more than 200 billion lines of raw WSPR data, building custom software to filter out false positives caused by atmospheric conditions, solar storms, or background noise. Through this Herculean effort, a pattern began to emerge. Approximately 130 anomalies clustered over the Indian Ocean on the night MH370 disappeared. These anomalies weren't scattered randomly. They formed a coherent track starting near the last spot where Malaysian military radar had detected the plane. From there, the disturbances curved southwest and then south, ending at a very precise point, roughly 1,500 kilometers west of Perth, Australia. This location was deep in the Indian Ocean and, crucially, outside any area previously searched by official operations. Godfrey's approach offered a trail far more refined than the enormous arcs drawn from satellite ping data, narrowing down a potential crash site from hundreds of thousands of square kilometers to corridors just a few dozen kilometers wide. The implications were profound. A lost plane could be tracked through signals never intended for aviation search, turning a global amateur radio network into an accidental detector. While this sounded like science fiction, Godfrey did not stop at theory. He invited scrutiny by involving experts and providing data for independent verification. What was once a fringe idea began earning cautious respect from scientists familiar with signal propagation and statistical analysis. Still, the real question remained: could this method hold up under the weight of rigorous testing and find the key that thousands of people had failed to uncover? This new path into the mystery exposed a powerful possibility, one that could rewrite the story of MH370 and finally reveal where the plane rests beneath the ocean waves. The clues hidden in ancient data strands led to a place no official search had dared to explore, setting the stage for an investigation that could change everything. Mapping the Invisible Trail. Richard Godfrey's WSPR data search extended beyond basic random radio signal analysis. He spent 3 years developing software which could analyze 200 billion data lines to detect minute changes in low-power radio signals used by worldwide amateur radio operators. The signals created an extensive hidden network which connected all continents and oceanic areas, which Godfrey used to investigate the nighttime disappearance of MH370 on that particular day. The researcher discovered more than 130 signal disturbances which affected the Indian Ocean during his research. The arranged anomalies created a path which extended from the final military radar contact to the southwest before reaching the southern direction. Godfrey discovered that atmospheric noise did not exist by himself. The timing and location matched MH370's disappearance closely, turning the broad satellite search arcs into narrow possible flight corridors. The current investigation showed a fundamental departure from previous investigations. Satellite pings had only narrowed the search to a vast area covering hundreds of thousands of square kilometers. The WSPR data established a more precise route, which showed better accuracy than the previous measurements. The two permanent ham radio stations created a radio signal path, which an aircraft could use to create measurable signal disruptions. Godfrey used disturbance analysis from several paths to reconstruct parts of the airplane's flight path. He later concentrated on 14 MHz signals because he believed their behavior showed better results when measuring large metal objects, which included a Boeing 777. After the researchers removed all signals which had lower strength or uncertain status, the strongest anomalies began to create an ocean path, which resembled breadcrumb trails. The experts from University of Liverpool conducted tests to verify his research results through their collaboration with Godfrey. The researchers used statistical methods to study the WSPR anomalies, which showed that they expected with 74% certainty that MH370 rested at 29.128 degrees south and 99.934 degrees east in the southern Indian Ocean. The site rests approximately 1,500 kilometers west of Perth, Australia, in an area which previous searches did not completely investigate. The method continues to generate debate among experts because of its ongoing scientific status. The opponents doubt that amateur radio transmissions can successfully show the route of an aircraft which has gone missing. Godfrey's study, combined with expert assessments and his links to current flight information, transformed WSPR into one of the most contentious evidence sources regarding the MH370 case. Finding a thread this fine through decades-old static begged the question, would this fragile trail hold up under real-world tests and external scrutiny? Validation and pushback. The real test of Richard Godfrey's WSPR method came not from computer models, but from live testing. To prove the theory, his team worked with the University of Liverpool and arranged for a Boeing 777 to fly along the suspected MH370 corridor over the Indian Ocean. As the aircraft moved through the sky, WSPR receivers around the world monitored faint radio signals crossing the area. The results were striking. Signal disturbances appeared at the exact time and place the plane was flying, with timing accurate down to the minute. For Godfrey's supporters, this showed that WSPR could detect the passage of a large commercial aircraft in real time. Still, criticism came quickly. Skeptics argued that WSPR was never built to track airplanes. It was created by amateur radio operators to study signal propagation through the ionosphere, not to solve aviation mysteries. But technology often finds unexpected uses. The basic idea is simple. A large metal aircraft can disturb weak radio signals as it passes through them. Even Joe Taylor, the Nobel Prize-winning creator of WSPR, acknowledged that aircraft can affect these signals. Godfrey's changing crash coordinates also raised doubts. His early estimates shifted from around 33 degrees south latitude to near 29 degrees south, leading some critics to call it guesswork. Supporters argue this was normal scientific refinement. As new data and better algorithms were added, the model became more precise. For more than 14 months, the target has remained fixed near 29 degrees south, suggesting the analysis has stabilized. The biggest challenge remains the lack of confirmed wreckage in the proposed zone. Until major debris, a black box, or the fuselage is found, the theory cannot be fully proven. However, confirmed MH370 debris has washed ashore across the western Indian Ocean, including Réunion Island, Mozambique, Madagascar, Tanzania, and South Africa. Ocean current studies also support the theory. Researchers at the Geomar Helmholtz Center ran drift simulations tracing debris backward through Indian Ocean currents. Their results pointed to an origin close to Godfrey's 29 degrees south location, giving the WSPR analysis independent support. The stage is now set not just for theory or debate, but for action, where countless hidden signals and untapped data may finally lead to the truth beneath the waves. The renewed search and hope.
What it's doing may be the final act in the mystery, the tragedy, of the missing Boeing 777 aircraft and its 239 passengers and crew.
The search for MH370 has reached its new operational phase after multiple years of searching and encountering unsuccessful results. The new agreement between Malaysia and Ocean Infinity brings renewed interest to the specific search area, which measures 15,000 square kilometers and was located through Richard Godfrey's WSPR analysis. The current initiative moves beyond its previous stage, which involved wide exploratory searching. The project uses precise scientific information and advanced underwater research apparatus to conduct its operations. Ocean Infinity built its Armada 7806 vessel specifically to execute this type of operation. The ship possesses the capability to launch autonomous underwater vehicles which can reach depths of thousands of meters while conducting high-definition sonar surveys of the ocean bottom. The robotic systems can function autonomously for extended durations, which enables them to traverse challenging environments at a higher speed and improved efficiency compared to previous search techniques. The contract is also structured as no find, no fee, meaning Ocean Infinity only gets paid if the aircraft is found. The arrangement demonstrates confidence in both the new search area and the operational capabilities of current technology. The underwater vehicles operating simultaneously through the area will complete their mission within weeks, instead of taking multiple years to finish. This mission brings deep emotional significance to the families of the 239 passengers and crew. The family members have spent more than 10 years searching for answers through public speculation and multiple failed search attempts and the agonizing period of waiting. The search for wreckage now brings fresh optimism that the lost aircraft will finally be located. The Indian Ocean maintains its dangerous and unpredictable nature, which creates a situation where no outcomes can be predicted. The combination of improved data and better equipment with a dedicated search strategy offers the highest possibility of solving this enduring aviation enigma. The MH370 mystery has challenged the world for over a decade. But new evidence and technology are bringing us closer than ever to answers. Richard Godfrey's breakthrough and the upcoming search by Ocean Infinity give fresh hope to a story long shrouded in uncertainty. If you found this deep dive fascinating, please like and subscribe for more updates and explorations into the world's greatest mysteries.